talk about HIPAA Say What.
Yeah, but you got to get the little button back, buddy.
I know. HIPAA Say What?
I know. It's the cue for me to pay attention.
You're listening to the Help Me with HIPAA podcast, where HIPAA and humor collide to make learning fun. Your delightful hosts are Donna Grindle and David Sims. Relax. HIPAA help is on the way.
Welcome to episode 389 of the Help Me with HIPAA podcast. My name is David Sims of HIPAA for MSPs, and joining me is Donna Grindle of Carton. Good morning, Donna.
Hello, David.
This is actually a morning recording. We don't usually do mornings anymore.
I know. Well, I appreciate you helping me out. Rescheduling.
Yeah, I had to do that. But
sometimes, we do have the family comes first, and we're always really good supporting each other through those things. Yeah. So I am trying to adapt to a new year and getting back on track with all of the thousands of things that didn't get done in 2022, getting them ready for 2023.
So
how about you?
It's already off the rails. Already.
I know. It's like, you know what? That didn't happen last year. It ain't going to happen this year. We're not doing it. Moving on.
Yeah. At some point, you just take all your plans and throw them in the trash.
Yep. If 2020 taught us anything, it's that you can do that.
Yeah. That's true. But I'm looking forward to January 17th. That's when it's the National Throw Your Resolutions in the Trash Day or something like that.
I love it.
Yeah. So I think it's funny that they give you 17 whole days before you throw them in the trash. So I thought that was
not a fan of those.
No. I like to tell people, look, don't make resolutions, make plans, make goals. But, not that matters either to some people because it takes more than just making them.
Yeah. And the other thing is if you're serious about it, you just want to change your habits, But, it does play into something we talk about oftentimes about compliance and privacy and security programs, which is I have read that just writing down your goals drastically increases the likelihood that you'll do them. And how many times we talked about just having the instant response plan drastically improves your privacy and security program. Well, there you go. I guess we need to listen to what we're saying to ourselves.
Yep. So sometimes everything we say permeates through every aspect of your life.
Permeates. Now we get to put a big word in. He feels good.
I know. I had to look it up. So today we're going to be talking about LastPass.
Yes.
Yeah. So there's been a lot happening. Some people know about it. Some people probably don't. You just shove it under the rug and say, we'll figure it out whenever.
Well, didn't your wife say, I don't care. I trash that stuff.
Yeah, she don't care. But she also doesn't listen to the podcast. So, for most of our listeners, they may already be following this. In fact, we've had a few message us and say, what do you guys think about this? And so what we wanted to do, which is what we normally do, we kind of let the dust settle a little bit because if we talk about it too soon, we have to go back and
do it again.
Yeah. Like, okay, now there's new information. So we feel like to some degree, the dust has settled enough to talk about it. And so what the question is, though, is this the last pass that we're going to give to LastPass?
Yuck.
And there's some concerning things about this most recent breach. And then we'll talk about how you need to consider handling it. Because if you're like me and Donna, we've gone from, oh my God, let's ditch it to, how are we going to ditch it to, I don't know that we can ditch it.
To what is it that we, and then going back through it. So there have been a few of our frantic discussions, which is another reason that we have to wait till the dust settles so that our brains will settle.
Yeah. But it's Don and I almost do like a mini SRA together.
On the fly, simultaneously. Yeah. Thankfully, we can document with our chats.
Yeah, there you go. But it is a mini risk analysis or assessment or whatever you want to call it. But it is. That's what we did, and we do that, and we bounce all the risk back and forth and how we're going to mitigate the risk. What does it mean? So we're going to bring kind of all that to the forefront today to talk about what happened, what does it actually mean for you, and what are some things you need to do about that, because it's more than just changing passwords.
Yeah, it's not about that. I mean, it's about that, but it's not about that.
Right.
Yeah.
But before we dive into that, we want to remind everybody that, guess what? Price Tag Boot Camp is almost upon us.
I know. And the early bird clock is ticking.
Mm-hmm.
And if you need any information to help guide the way, we're putting a lot of stuff out on social media that you can use for, hey, look at this. It's awesome. To get the approvals you need. But come join us, because it's getting like there are so many things that are right now important to understand. If you can go to one thing, go to the Price Tag Boot Camp if you're the person that actually does things.
Yeah. And, most of you that are listening probably need to get some type of continuing education units, and we have 27.6 live continuing education units.
Pre-approved by the Compliance Certification Board, which we can't go around and get pre-approved. You know that costs money to get them to look at that and go, yes, we approve it.
Mm-hmm.
So we get one that approves it, and we've never had anybody get turned down with supplying that information and the details, because ours is really education.
Yeah.
And details matter. So, and we're going to have all of our partners with us. You're going to have access to so many people with so much information. Learn more at PriceTagBootCamp.com.
Never gets old.
No, we are those people.
Yeah. But if you want to learn more about the offerings that Donna and I separately have, you can visit Carden at cardenhq.com, and you can visit my site at HIPAA4MSPs.com. Spell it any way you want, it'll get you there.
Yeah, I don't put HIPAA in our name, mostly because I know people can't spell it.
Yep. So
they are doing better, though.
Yep.
There's nothing better than somebody announcing, particularly on social media, that they are HIPAA expert.
Yeah. There's a lot of those out there.
Mm-hmm. I know all about it. I'm in charge of it. Are you now? I should send this to your boss.
Yep.
All right. So let's get into it.
Yeah. So we got the HIPAA Say What segment. We have a listener question, and then we'll dive into LastPass. So let's talk about HIPAA Say What.
Yeah, but you got to get the little button back, buddy.
I know. HIPAA Say What?
I know. It's the cue for me to pay attention. Okay, so we've talked about this many, many times. The 43rd enforcement action for patient right of access was just settled, the first thing for 2023. It's all the same. Somebody asked for their records and couldn't get them.
Yep.
And I think they asked in July and didn't get them till like April or something. I mean, too long. And this is one patient complaint. It's not like there are 20. One patient complaint. And this one's in Georgia too. Not far from me at all. The Southeast, man, it's a world of privacy and security stories. But they're paying $16,500 for one patient settlement, and it's a lab. And
what?
For those of you who have told me, well, we're a lab, they'll go to their provider to get it. Hello, you're still a covered entity, and if they know you did it, they can ask for their records. Mm-hmm. And if you have them, it is your responsibility, even if you don't, to respond within the 30-day timeline to provide those records. So this is Life Hopes Laboratory in Sandy Springs, Georgia, which is kind of at 12 o'clock For those of you who know Atlanta, it's a clock, a big circle. They're around 12 o'clock. And they have signed a resolution agreement to pay the $16,500 to not say they had a violation and a 2-year corrective action plan.
Mm-hmm.
And every time they do these, 43. That's more than all the others they've ever done for any one thing. I have to go see how many years of others. Now I'm going to have to look that up. How many years of other ones, and I got it in a spreadsheet. I'm sure it's easy to look. Anything other than right of access, how many of those have they done compared to these 43?
Yeah. And, I said this last time when we had 42, but I'll say it again. You've been warned 43 times not to do this. Okay?
And again, this one is not about the money. I mean, I'm certainly not the person that could stroke a check for $16,500 and be happy about it. However, we do have the traditional quote from the OCR director, Melanie Fontes Rainer. Hit it, brother.
Yeah. Access to medical records, including lab results, empowers patients to better manage their health, communicate with their treatment teams, and adhere to their treatment plans. The HIPAA privacy rule gives individuals and personal representatives a right to timely access to their medical records from all covered entities, including laboratories. Laboratories covered by HIPAA must follow the law and ensure that they are responding timely to request access to records.
To access requests.
Yeah, that.
Yeah, it's a very.
I got dyslexic at the end there.
But here's the other point is this is a personal representative who went to the laboratory asking for the records for her deceased father. And I don't know, it seems like they didn't even know what to do about that. They just like, well, you need to go to somebody else. No, you're a covered entity. You have the records. Do you have the records? Yes. Then you should give them to them. Mm-hmm. And it is the personal representative that needed the information. And, there could be some sort of family thing. Who knows? But laboratories are covered entities and they need to follow HIPAA just like anybody else. So there you go. 2-year corrective action plan. Not 20 like the FTC. Feel good about that. We talked about that. And the other thing we need to point out is January 22nd through the 28th. I think it was officially Data Privacy Day, and now the National Cybersecurity Alliance is participating in Data Privacy Week.
Yeah, because we just can't get enough.
So again, here's an opportunity there's going to be a ton of stuff freely available, and just, post it, send an email, whatnot, just to get, some of this freely available stuff. And it's a reason to do it to remind everybody about your privacy obligations.
Mm-hmm.
We'll have a link to the Data Privacy Week on the National Cybersecurity Alliance, which provides access to other information. Obviously be in our notes, but you could also just Google or search for, I think there's the term, the verb Google. I'm Googling it. You could Google it. Is completely separate now from the company Google.
Yeah. Yeah. Because you can Google on Bing.
Yeah. You can Google on, what is it? The
DuckDuckGo.
DuckDuckGo. Yeah. I like them.
Yep. Yeah. That's like Xerox, Mm-hmm. Go make me a Xerox copy. But you don't have a Xerox machine.
Uh-huh. And so many people Xerox this, but we're at the point where a lot of people are like, what are you talking about, Xerox? Aren't they the ones that created the mouse that they stole it from? Anyway, so all right. Check out your Data Privacy Week stuff, celebrate Data Privacy Week, have a party, whatever.
Yeah, you should definitely have a party. You should dress up as your favorite privacy violation.
Oh, don't even start. Okay, next we have to apologize to a listener for our inability to track our own stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. So, like most people, every so often something hits our inbox and gets buried faster than than we can see it. And
Well, we have a system, but I just put it.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to confess. We have a system. We use a Trello board to manage the podcast. You put them, when they come in, you put them on the list. I put it on the wrong list. I found it this morning.
Ah, now we know who the blame is.
I'm naming it and claiming it, bringing my little red wagon up with all of my problems. So this goes out to Tim, if you're still a big podcast fan.
I wrote those jerks months ago and they never responded.
Oh, yeah. Our bad, but as we've told you, we don't have good help.
Yeah.
It's just us.
I think we need to fire the help.
I know. Well, our administrative help is very lacking in so many ways. So with that in mind, Tim says, hello, big fan of the podcast. I had a question for you that's hard for me to find.
Just like the
email. I'm sure it is hard for you to find because basically it's one of those where we say it's a fact-specific determination.
Yep.
We're a software engineering company. We made an app for a hospital. I believe PHI transverses through our app, but no one in our company has access to the actual PHI in any way, shape, or form. My question is, does our company need to be HIPAA compliant? I have so many more questions, Tim.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you have to determine whether you meet the conduit exception.
Mm-hmm.
And the real details on that are in the guidance for cloud providers. That's where they really went into defining the conduit exception is very narrow. They actually say it. It is very narrow. And if the data simply moves through from one point to the other and never sits there, it can't sit there. So think of your ISPs and those kind of things. They are conduits, just like UPS and the US Mail, courier services, they're conduits. So they don't have to worry about it. The question is, can you prove you're a conduit? And that any way, shape, or form thing, David and I both know people have told us we don't store PHI in any way, shape, or form. Well, do you do this? Oh, yeah, we do.
Yeah.
Yeah. Can you see the traffic? Can you read the traffic? Is it something that is fully encrypted in transit that you don't even have the ability to see? So there's a lot of variables that you have to go through, but I would recommend going to the information that they released about cloud providers, because back in the day, prior to 2016, I think they did 2018. It's not that long ago. You could say that a backup provider who we gave them if we encrypted with our own encryption key and stored it in the cloud, we would say, look, they don't have access to it in any way, shape, or form. The problem is that putting it in the cloud means that the cloud provider is now also responsible for those two other pieces. Confidentiality is having access to it, but integrity and availability can also be impacted by the cloud provider. So you get what I'm saying.
Well, let me ask you this. He says, I believe PHI traverses through our app, which makes me question whether or not that's the intent of the app. So, if he's selling this app and saying, here's the app, but it's not made for you to put PHI in, and people are doing it anyway, how does that affect him?
He's still on the hook.
All right.
It's the work you do that makes you a business associate. That's what they say. Very, very clear. The work you do makes you a business associate, not whether somebody has you sign a BAA. Now, the other thing, and who was it we were talking about just recently? It's a company that has an RMM tool and for managed service providers, and they put those little agents on so they can get the manage the computers at the sites. And that means it has to go on the systems, and the RMM provider has to be a business associate, which is always fun to have that conversation, isn't it, David?
Yeah, it's a lot easier than it used to be.
Yeah, I know. I remember. I mean, some of the big name ones I talked to, and they're like, no, we don't have to do that. And I'm like, you do.
Yeah. Yeah, they finally came around. I mean, back in 2013-ish, man, we were talking to a lot of major companies, and almost all of them were like, no, we don't have to worry about HIPAA. And now all of them are like, we do HIPAA.
I know, right? And so, but that's a whole nother rabbit hole.
Yeah.
But in the contracts now, some of them actually say, if we are not a HIPAA business associate and do not use our code anywhere near PHI,
right.
And if you do, then you're violating HIPAA, not me. I'm telling you, our system is not designed to use or be near or even, a whim of PHI. Mm-hmm. So there you go. That's another way to do it. Say, don't do it. And if you do it, you're using it the way it's not intended, in the way your license agreement, and you're in violation of your license agreement.
Yep. So, Tim, I would say it would be worth your small investment to get Donna on a phone call, let her ask some more questions, and give you some good direction.
Yeah, I have those phone calls periodically.
Yep. So that's what I would do if it were me.
Yeah. And Tim, if you send us an email, we will be watching for it from now on. You will get top priority.
If you email today, she'll get to you by July.
Post haste, Tim. Post haste. Okay. All right. So now, down to, is this the LastPass on LastPass? Yuck, yuck, yuck. David came up with that.
I did. So, because, we've talked about other incidents they've had. They've had like 7 breaches. I mean, and, every time we give them, quote unquote, a pass, because we honestly, we like the way they handle them.
Yeah.
They're very transparent. They're very quick and all those types of things. There's some things about this one we're not so much in love with.
Well, it's just, there's a few things. But we can get into that. Let's talk about what happened first, and then we'll talk about our thoughts and opinions of where we are.
So we'll give the kind of the shorter version of what happened, because some of you know already what happened, and so I don't want to rehash all of it. A lot of the things that happen aren't that important, so we'll try to break this down into just a few paragraphs.
Okay, you go then.
I go? Okay,
you go. You go.
All right. So, here's the thing, is that they had an incident. Now, it's worth going back and talking about how, both Don and I, we've used LastPass for years, and we don't want to have to move to another platform. But, it's important to understand what happened here. So, on August the 25th of 2022, last year, they publicly announced that they were a victim of a breach that happened a couple weeks earlier. And I want to read what they posted on their announcement on the website, because, again, it's sometimes what they say, sometimes what they don't say. All right. So here's what they put on the blog. 2 weeks ago, we detected some unusual activity within portions of LastPass development environment. After initiating an immediate investigation, we've seen no evidence that this incident involved any access to customer data or encrypted password vaults. We have determined that an unauthorized party gained access to portions of the LastPass development environment, and listen to this, through a single compromised developer account.
Just takes one.
Yeah. And they took portions of the source code and some proprietary LastPass technical information, which we still don't know what that is. Our products and services are still operating normally. All right. So that's the initial thing. So first off, I'm like, all right, well, okay, I don't know what the source code is. I don't know what this technical information is, how it could be used against us. But they are saying, at least in this notice, that the customer data and the encrypted password vaults are safe. So I'm like, cool.
Okay. Yeah.
Very cool.
But we'll go now, and also note 2 weeks. They found it. 2 weeks later, they're coming out and saying what they know.
Yeah.
And we know these things take time.
Right. And we also know that no matter what you say in the beginning, it's going to get worse.
Yeah, exactly. We know that's always the case.
Yeah.
Because you don't know. So this gets back to that everybody wants a quicker turnaround time on being notified. Okay, I can notify you there's something going on, but I can't give you all the details yet because that takes time.
But and what we saw, which always happens, is that as soon as the announcement's made, everybody jumps off the bridge about it's the end of the world. Stop using password managers. I mean, I've seen some crazy articles about, we should not be using password managers ever. And, let's go back to pencil and paper and let's cut off the internet. I don't know. But it's crazy.
Yes. Yeah,
right.
There are people, here's your line. LastPass made them pass out. Is exactly what some of my team, when they're like, well, the ones that are more paranoid than others, but they they said I taught him to be paranoid. I'd rather that than not, but yeah, right away. But David and I, we're just going to monitor it. There's nothing else you can do.
Yep. All right. So a month later, they released another announcement, and it's a little more concerning here. So it reads, the threat actor gained access to the development environment using a single developer's compromised endpoint. So that's a little bit different than they said the first time.
Uh-huh.
So now we've got a compromised PC or something endpoint.
Device.
While the method used for the internal or for the initial endpoint compromise is inconclusive, we don't know how they got in.
Not yet.
The threat actor utilized their persistent access.
Uh-huh.
What does that mean?
Now I'm concerned.
Yeah. Persistent access means we can come back anytime we want to.
Yeah.
They used the persistent access to impersonate the developer once the developer had successfully authenticated using MFA.
Yeah.
Okay. Which means, the way I read it, is that MFA was set up. Fantastic. However, somebody gave them the code somehow.
Mm-hmm. Well, there's ways to do that. You get the little thing that, because when you do the MFA, there's a little, think of it as a little flag has been set on your computer that you're fine for now, and it has a timer on it until you need an MFA again. And so if they were monitoring what the developer was doing, they got the little flag, which then allowed them to recreate the token, and which is what the little flag is. But what we know is that a multi-factor authentication tool called Twilio had a breach prior to that. And I can't recall the date of the Twilio. Now I'm trying to look it up while I'm talking, which never goes well. But their communications had a problem. And it, things happen. And so it's that to always remember that whatever happens over here in the corner can later impact you and you didn't even know it. So just adding that.
Mm-hmm. All right. So a few months go by. Yes, I said months. And December 22nd, I don't know of anything that might have covered up this a little bit, but kind of close to the holidays.
Yes.
December 22nd, LastPass makes another announcement and an update. Based on our investigation to date, we've learned that an unknown threat actor accessed the cloud-based storage environment. Oh, wait a minute. So my question is, did this happen before or after or during the other one? And just wait, they answer that.
But wait, there's more.
Yeah. They access the cloud-based storage environment, leveraging information obtained from the incident that we previously talked about in August of 22. So a breach led to a breach.
To a breach.
Yeah. While, okay, here we go. While no customer data was accessed during the August incident, some source code and technical information were stolen from our development environment and used to target another employee, obtaining credentials and keys, which were used to access and decrypt some storage volumes within the cloud-based storage service. I am now starting to get concerned.
Exactly.
To date,
persistent drove us crazy. Now we have lateral movement.
Yeah. And we're talking about decryption of storage volumes. Not happy with this. To date, we've determined that once the cloud storage access key and dual storage container decryption keys were obtained, the threat actor copied information from backup that contained basic customer account information and related metadata, including company names, end user names, billing addresses, email addresses, telephone numbers, and the IP addresses from which customers were accessing the LastPass service. The threat actor was also able to copy a backup of the customer's vault data from the encrypted storage container, which is stored in proprietary binary format and contains both unencrypted data, such as website URLs, as well as fully encrypted sensitive data, fields, blah, blah, blah. So this is just freaking fantastic.
This is where your hair is on fire for just a minute.
Yeah. Not only does the hacker have my personal information in those unencrypted fields, but they also have an encrypted copy of my flipping LastPass vault. Now, here's the hair on fire part where Donna and I are messaging each other. It's the end of the world.
Love REM.
Yeah. So let's talk about what this means for you. So first of all, you can definitely freak out that they have some unencrypted information about you. They absolutely do. But they also have the encrypted vault. Is that a problem? Well, maybe, maybe not. But there are a few things that come to mind, though, as I put these show notes together that we say often in the show. One being, you can't fully outsource your own security. Now, this has nothing to do with LastPass. I'm talking about all the people that use LastPass that talked about, well, I have an IT company. I have a cybersecurity company. I pay such and so to do this. You can't. You have to pay attention to these things. Because guess what? Now we're talking about supply chain issues, third-party problems. You can't fully outsource all your security. You got to be on the security team yourself.
Yeah, you gotta pay attention.
Yeah.
That's it.
The next thing we often say, you shouldn't wait until the security incident to start taking security seriously.
Hallelujah.
And we'll tell you more about why in just a minute. And then the other thing we often say is, nothing's 100% in cybersecurity. You have to have layers of protection. And this is why. Because now, for those people who do not have layers of protection, you need to be a little more worried than I do or that Donna does, because we have all these other fail-safes in place just in case something like this happens.
Well, yeah, I mean, there's a big part of it is, we've always said if you use any kind of password manager, you have to have a very complex password that you can remember and MFA on that as well. So your password is how they use it to encrypt it. So if you have a crappy password, you have crappy encryption. Just think of it that way.
Yep. All right. So the big question that everybody wants to know first typically is, all right, is my password vault safe? Because
maybe
it's always, it's in the loving arms of a hacker now. So that's about as safe as it can be. Now, I will say though, if you're using proper security protocols, I could give my password, I could stick it out there on my website and say, here, everybody download it if you want to. Because I'm not worried about it. It's encrypted, it's out there. all this stuff. So that's how I base my security on the assumption that I'm going to put it out there for everybody to see. You remember the guy that used to drive around with the van, the LifeLock guy that would put his social security number on? And he was like, I'm so confident that I'll drive around with my social security number on there, which I think that he still ended up having some security problems based on that several times. But anyway, I kind of go on that same premise. Like, not that I would, but I should be able to have some of these things taken, but yet not have to worry about it. Similar to if I had my laptop stolen, because now my laptop's encrypted. I'm not as worried about it. In fact, I can use the safe harbor exemption because of it. That's how confident I am. So that's what we go on. So the answer to the question of, is your password vault safe? It completely depends on how good your password is, just like what Donna said.
It's a fact-specific determination.
Yep. If you had an easy password or password this part of a breach somewhere else, so in other words, let's say you used it on Twitter or LinkedIn, and it's the exact same password that you used in your LastPass vault, you should be super concerned. You should be losing a lot of sleep. As a matter of fact, you probably need therapy. This is probably going to be bad for you, because here's the thing. You can go to your LastPass account and you can change your master password today, which we recommend that you do. However, that's not going to affect the stolen vault. It still has your old password, and it will always have your old password.
Indeed.
Everything in it is going to remain the same, even if you change it on your current password vault. And if you change all your current passwords everywhere, they still have the old ones, which we'll get to all that in a little bit. But whatever state it was in at the time it was taken, it will remain in that state.
Preach it, brother. Yeah. Yeah. But I mean, no matter what we do, you always have to start with the thing that needs to be the most secure.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the password rules, you can go and check passwords at a lot of places. And I tell you, one of the things that I started doing a couple of years ago is I make a sentence, and somewhere in there I create an uppercase. I take out the spaces because, a lot of things don't like that, and throw in a special character and some numbers, but it's a sentence. Mm-hmm. And often, well, I guess I can say this now because I don't use it anymore, and I will never use it again because I've already used it. But, for example, early last year, I started thinking about what do I want to do on my birthday, because I'm having a big birthday coming up in a couple of months. And yes, there will be a big party because I'm not one to miss an opportunity to throw a big bash.
It'll be in Louisville. What?
And there, a month later, and we're going to be partying on a small island somewhere where I can't get in too much trouble. Well, no, never mind on that. But, what can I do for 2023? Something, I don't remember what it was, but it was something that I was trying to figure out and thinking about a lot. And so I made my password a big, long, what can I do? This idea, 2023, ? There you go. It was a nice long sentence, and it helped me think about it and not forget it. But definitely don't tell somebody that's what you were thinking about.
Yep.
Because, I had to change my password every 90 days, just like everybody else. But using some sort of sentence, a definitive thing, your New Year's resolution that you don't tell anyone.
Yeah, that you won't keep. Yeah. But here's the other thing too, is I had people that were telling me, well, if I go to these password checkers, it's like, oh, it's going to take somebody 100,000 years to break my password. I'm not too worried about it. Okay, but here's the thing. Is that the only place you've ever used that password?
Yes.
Again, going back to what I said, if you use that same password somewhere else that's involved in a breach, it doesn't matter.
Right.
It's already out there in the list somewhere. And these hackers aren't sitting there manually typing in hundreds of thousands of different passwords. They're grabbing these lists and they're throwing these lists at it.
I know, when you say that, so many people, it's like they envision the hackers having to do what they think they would have to do. Mm-hmm. Like if I wanted to do this, I would sit there and do this. Nope, that's not how it works.
No,
not at all.
No.
So yes, keep that in mind.
So the other part of it is thinking about, okay, if I'm a criminal or criminal organization and I've got tons and tons and tons of password vaults, how do I decide which one are worth my time? So LastPass made it easy here.
Yes.
By allowing the URLs to be visible. So let's do an example here. LastPass account number 1 I'm looking at, it's got some gaming site URLs, a school site, some porn sites. Okay, probably a kid, some teenage guy, I guess, potentially. All right, so now look at LastPass account.
Or college, you could do college.
Or college, yeah, or college. LastPass account number 2 I'm looking at, and there's 3 different banking websites, a few credit card websites, a dozen or so business and shopping sites. Which one do you think I'm going to give the resources to?
Mm-hmm. Which one am I going to aim?
Right. Yeah. And, and there's some banks, like, for example, I deal with a fairly small bank. They're a little more than local, but you can at least tell what region I live in based on the bank I use.
Uh-huh.
You would know I live in the Southeast. So there's a lot they can glean from these URLs.
Didn't they say like addresses were included in there and billing and contact and
yeah. All that can be used against you.
Mm-hmm.
Every bit of it. They're going to build profiles against on people and use that. So what should you do? Here's our little short list of things that you need to consider. If you want a checklist, here's your checklist. So first and foremost, if you haven't already, you should be changing your LastPass master password. Make sure it's strong. Don't use it anywhere else. And don't use the one that Donna just gave you.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Also, make sure you change the password stored inside your vault. Now, this is where this makes me break out in hives thinking about, because I don't know about you, Donna. I have thousands of passwords in my password vault.
Uh-huh.
Thousands, not dozens, thousands. Now, in all honesty, am I going to go through and change all these? No, I'm probably not. But what I am going to do is I'm going to go through and change the ones that really, really matter. Like everything that gets to any money. So banks, credit cards, all those things like that.
Accounting.
Anything that is access to my business or my clients. So my RMM provider, my backup provider, all those types of vendors. Now I've reduced this thousands of sites down to a couple of dozen or so.
Yeah.
And so that's doable. So I'm going to change those passwords. If I can do more than that, fine. I've got some sites that I probably hadn't even been to in 5 years. I'm not going to go through and start changing all these passwords. The good thing is they're all separate passwords. So even if they get into that one site, they're not going to get into another one using the same credentials. Not too worried about it. But if they got into some obscure AppSumo deal site that I got a long time ago, I'm not too worried about it.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, whatever, they got it. So what? The other thing is I want to make sure I set up 2FA or MFA everywhere I can. And we say this all the time. And I do have it set up everywhere I can. It drives me nuts when sites don't let me set this up.
Yeah, I know. Or they give you the only option is SMS.
Yeah. And I don't know about you, but recently I've logged into LastPass and it has said, we don't recognize this computer. And I'm like, what do you mean? It's the same computer I've used for 2 years. So I think on the back end, they're making all these things re-authenticate.
Yeah.
So which is good. All right. So next thing is going to take a little bit of work, not much, but you do need to change your password iteration setting within LastPass. So you can go into the administrative settings and change it. Right now, it's probably set, if you're lucky, it's set to 100, 100, or 100,100 iterations.
Which is the default.
Yeah, but they did say that there's some people that had really old accounts that it could be a lot less. It could be like 5,000.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So obviously, the more iterations that you have of your password that they have to go through and to potentially hack, the better off you are. Change the setting to 310000. Okay, that's the going recommendation from OWASP. Honestly, I don't know why it's not already. Yeah, it's not already default. But
that's one of the big conversations about why was that default not changed a long time ago. So
yeah.
Anyway,
so change that on your own, and you can do that. Google it. Google it on Bing or whatever.
It's under the account settings in LastPass, and we'll put a link or something that shows you how to do it.
Yep, just go to your settings and go to advanced, and then scroll down. It's there. Easy peasy. Okay, so the other thing, and this should be something you're doing all the time anyway, which is if something is very suspicious or if it smells funny, you should probably be suspicious of everything for a long time.
Yeah.
And matter of fact, I do it all the time, always, for everything. Be very suspicious because, as Donna pointed out, they have a ton of information on you already, and they will use that against you. And then lastly, whether you decide to move to a different password manager or stay on LastPass, because there's, prevailing decisions either way, you should have a documented assessment of your decision. So do your mini risk assessment. We just told you what the risks are, and you're going to have to determine, are you going to accept the risk and all that? Or are you going to make the change, not make the change? Here's the thing about it, though. Whether you go to a different password manager or not, your vault's still in the hands of the hacker.
Right.
So you still have to deal with everything else anyway.
Yeah, all the problems are the same no matter what your decisions are as far as you move forward. So, David, what is it that you are choosing to do? Because we've gone back and forth. Y'all wouldn't believe how much is going back and forth.
So for me, there's a few things. One is, based on that comment I just made, which is no matter which way I go, I'm still dealing with the same mess. Based on that, and I've looked at all the bigger options, and there are good ones out there, but there are some things that LastPass gives us the ability to do that I have not been able to find in any other password manager. So, and these are things that are non-negotiable for me. Like there's certain geo fencing that I want to do on certain devices. I want it locked down. And so it doesn't make sense for me to move to a different password manager that's going to give me less ongoing security just so I can move away from LastPass. I also think that now that LastPass is under a massive microscope, it's probably the best time to be using them.
You remember what happened with Zoom? In COVID, and everybody jumps on Zoom because it's free. I don't know who decided to start telling people to do Zoom. It's free, get on Zoom, and then boom, there's a big security problem with Zoom. And now Zoom has security out the wazoo.
Right. And I've said that before in other episodes. When there's a breach like that, usually, not all the time, but usually going to that service after a breach is a much safer. Because, they found all the problems and a lot of people are digging and poking and prodding. And so you actually get a better security product after that. So our decision internally for our company is we've got to take all these measures, which we would have to do anyway, but we're going to stay with LastPass for now.
Well, we're my big concern is, and one of them it talked about that it came through their affiliate is what they called it. And this gets back to the same problem that you run into and so many people don't think about is when there's so-and-so purchase so-and-so, so purchase so-and-so, and, you know, that's constantly happening these days. And then they break apart. And if there is a connection, and that's what happened, they're an affiliate now. I think they're a separate company, but an affiliate of GoTo, like Go to My PC, you know. And that's where it came from. The initial breach is what I've read. Who knows what we may learn later. But the biggest issue I have is not going to change by going to somebody else, because so many of them are being purchased and that's happening. And I've seen this happen in other situations where everything was great with security and then somebody purchased them and they didn't put the same amount of oomph in security. And then you find, well, wait a minute. What do you mean you're not doing that anymore? And then you also have this case where now I'm connected in a way to somebody I have no control over. Oh, wait, a business associate. And again, supply chain issues. That's their supply chain.
Yep.
That's impacting my supply chain. So I'm monitoring it closely, evaluating some other tools, but evaluating and looking at the level of use. Just like David, there's things we do. To be able to move that is a major undertaking. And I'm going to carefully consider and do the risk analysis, and because now I'm introducing new risk. What if these people are worse than LastPass?
Yeah, at least this is the devil you know, right?
Yeah, so it's something that we're monitoring closely. You know, their transparency. The thing about the proprietary code and the source code, very bothersome.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing: is that some password managers put their source code out there in open source. Yeah. So I don't know if it's a problem or not. Because nobody
depends
said
on what they're doing.
Right. So I just don't know. And that's part of the thing that kind of gets under your skin is like, I just don't know.
Exactly. So you can feel good to know that we don't know. Because there's too many things we don't know. We're not going to make rash decisions. And that's the number one thing people do wrong in a data breach is make rash decisions. And if the scenario is different and we learn more, we may be forced to take action immediately. But we have taken that action and we're definitely following. I mean, those are what David went through. That's what he and I decided we were going to do. Which is fun to know that we still do that kind of crap. Our bond is so tight.
Yep. Yeah, well, you know, when your hair's on fire.
Yeah, there you go.
Sometimes instead of finding the hose, you try to find other people whose hair is on fire too.
Well, I'll put yours out. You put mine out.
Yeah, so, well, for me, it was, you know, I knew I was making some knee-jerk reactions. I knew that. However, I wanted to know whether or not I was going to be validated in that. And so I'm like, should I be freaking out as much as I am? Or, you know, and I think both of you, but you and I both at the same time were kind of doing it. So
yeah, we all of a sudden the chat between us was lit, not just one or two things. So just know that you need to be aware of these kind of things. And these are the kinds of decisions that you need to make about any application that you use that has a data breach.
Yeah. Yeah. So like for us, I was looking at moving and basically it came down to things like, okay, if we move, you know, we get to say that we're not using LastPass anymore, but we're losing some other security moving forward. And I'm like, wow, that doesn't make a lot of sense. You know, because of a security incident, I'm moving somewhere that's got less security. I don't, I just can't do that.
Yeah. So it's all in how you manage a password manager.
Yep.
Back to you can't outsource everything. You're still in charge.
Yeah. But as far as me worrying about my own vault, I mean, unless something else comes up where they say they've got your actual password to the vault, which, you know, they're not supposed to have that. But unless they come out with that, I'm not concerned about it. I have a super long passphrase Heck, it's hard enough for me to remember sometimes.
Yeah.
I'm not worried about it at all. And it's very long. It's like, I don't know, 30-something, 40-something characters or something.
It's when you're typing it, because this is one you do have to enter and you're like, I got to start over.
What I hate is when I have to get on it on my cell phone.
Oh, yeah.
I hate it with a passion. I'm like, oh, I hate typing this thing in. It's not as bad on the keyboard, but on the cell phone, it's terrible. So,
but you don't have to do 30 like David, but you definitely need to do more than 15. How's that?
Yeah, that sounds good.
Okay.
But so here's another question, and I've seen this tossed around, and we'll wrap up with this, is do you think that password managers should still be used?
Well, I think that's pretty obvious because we're going to continue to use one.
That's right.
I think there is no better solution to the password problem for anybody than a password manager, as long as you secure it properly.
Yep. I'm going to stick
and I have so many people that are like, well, I'm just going to keep my little book. Okay, well, you're mobile now. We move around all the time.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to carry that book with you everywhere, because the minute you do that, you are a breach. You're just a walking one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but if you get one that's got a lock on it, that's encrypted.
And there we go. That's always what we need to end the show.
All right, folks, that's our show for today. Thanks for listening. Remember to share us out. We appreciate it.
Mm-hmm.
And remember, for Donna and myself, HIPAA's not about compliance. It's about patient care.
You've been listening to the Help Me with HIPAA podcast, hosted by Donna Grindle and David Sims. The show created to help you with HIPAA. For more information or to ask us a question, visit our website at helpmewithhipaa.com. Neither Donna Grindle or David Sims are attorneys, and they do not offer binding legal advice concerning regulatory compliance. The information in this podcast should not be relied upon or construed as legal advice in any way. Consult your attorney for legal advice concerning compliance with HIPAA regulations.